YouTube this week. Well,
and get to see if this works
enough.
now. Hey, look, looks like it might work.
Yay!
Wait a minute, please grant necessary privilege for live streaming.
I'm guessing you probably just need to say check a box that says grant privileges.
How you doing, Moss? Okay.
You're on mute, Moss, just FYI.
There we go. I was gonna have my headset working.
There we go.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Okay.
Realizing that my day continues.
Your day continues?
Yeah, been having a challenging day.
Oh.
And as a result, I went to go hit simulcast to my YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's blocking me again. And you would have thought that the 7 whole days that I had to take care of that would have been enough.
You would think.
You would think. You would think is the operative. So
are we going to have to set up a
yes.
agreed upon time?
Yep, I'm going to have to maybe after this we'll have to go in for the verification tutorial. And I see we have a new attendee. Glad to see that you're here. I'm going to give a few moments for other people to join in. I got a whole plethora of topics tonight. Are you guys hearing any chiming on your end?
Let me see if it's me just from the car. Hold on.
Oh, no. It's on my computer. I just wanted to make sure that you guys weren't hearing it on your end.
I'm not hearing anything.
Good. Okay. While we're waiting, Linda, any ahas, takeaways, stuff you remember from last week, or?
Last week. Boy, that was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, I hear you. We were just discussing that.
You were just discussing that. Mm-hmm. Sorry, this light is so bad. I'll try and fix it a little bit. Shoot, I don't even remember. I guess what's really stuck in my mind is the conversation that you and I had this week. That was, about the three magic questions and echo talk. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you can remind me what we were talking about last week, I can probably give you the takeaways.
Part of what we were just discussing was how I should have had time to figure out how to get my simulcast done, and it's been kind of a crazy week.
Hey, simulcast, schmimulcast, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget about it. Just forget about it.
I'll just have to, I've got recordings of this that I'll just have to repost.
Yeah.
I guess I could probably just jump right into what we discussed about 3 magic questions the other day.
Yeah, that was good. I'm cooking, so I'm gonna kind of click this this video off so you guys don't have to watch me cook. But I'm right here.
Cool. Sky, are you there? Okay. The reason I'm asking, I'll wait till Lillian gets connected in as well. Oh, there's Nancy.
Sorry, I am here. Hello.
Yep. The reason I was asking, I know that I've gone over three magic questions with Nancy a little bit. Sky, have you had any exposure to David's teaching of three magic questions?
I have. I've watched a number of things on, so I know, a little bit, not too much, but yes.
Okay. What I've found, and I respect Dr. David to the nth degree. He has completely changed my life. The people that know me before and after David can attest to that. But a couple of things that I've had come up, and I've talked to him about it as well, is his approach to teaching three magic questions and his strong reference to it being coming out of the seduction world. Sadly, what I've found is a majority of people started linking it to something that you do to people and feeling like it was kind of a trick or something underhanded, something that, and it gave a lot of people kind of that dirty feeling when they tried to do it outside of the class.
Yeah, specifically to manipulate people to your own ends, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've had to reframe it, especially when I teach it, that Echo Talk, three magic questions, values and criteria elicitation should be taught to every human being on the planet right after they learn mama and dada.
Want to do that first thing tomorrow?
What's that?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. But because it's such a pure form of communication, and the difference is knowing your outcome. Why are you utilizing the different forms of questions in three magic questions? And for the benefit of whoever's going to watch the replay on this, in a nutshell, the three magic questions are not three questions. They are three styles of questions designed to help you elicit different types of information and help you in conversations, especially conversations with strangers. That is the gist of what it's all about. The fact that it came out of the seduction world should mean nothing more than, I think one of the references is look at how many medical breakthroughs came from the Nazis. Well, oh my God. Oh, you mean, what? And if somebody came up to you and said, yes, we are going to fix you with the Nazi cure, everybody'd be losing their damn mind. Well, it's kind of the same way people were looking at three magic questions when they found out it came from the seduction world. Take the seduction part out of it. So magic question number one style is location occasion, which basically I've reframed into being any open-ended conversation starter. The reason location occasion works well is it's an easy reference for you to understand something that you can use to start talking to people. But if you reframe it and think of it as any type of open-ended conversation starter, that takes the mystery out of it. I'm 6'4", oftentimes be out in public in my motorcycle gear. I can be a rather imposing person. And I can walk up to a petite, attractive lady, and because of this, I can go, just out of curiosity, where'd you get those shoes? And all of a sudden, I'm not this threat. So you find something that you can ask them about that is a conversation starter. One of David's references, if you're in a restaurant or a bar, out of curiosity, have you been here before? What's the food like? What's your favorite? Another one that I use quite a bit is for practice. I practice all the time. You can go to at a gas pump. Terrible place to start a conversation, right? You would think. But if you use something like, excuse me, out of curiosity, what year is that car? And it's innocent enough. They're like, well, it's a 94. And one thing that I came up with that I love teaching is I will ask, is there anything you don't like about it? And it's just a different enough approach that they pause and do an introspect. Because hey, it's a nice car. What do you like about it? Well, I like the color. I like the brand, blah, 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 blah. But if you say, well, is there anything you don't like about it? They get the chance to introspect and share their knowledge of what they've learned about the vehicle. And the added benefit is if the reply is, no, there's nothing I don't like about it. What you've just done is validated their purchase because they couldn't find anything they don't like about it. And I have had conversations, like I say, on my motorcycle. Here I've got a helmet on, visor, leathers. I'm 6'4", 6'6" or 7" with my cowboy boots on. And I can have some petite little single lady in a little Mercedes-Benz convertible, and we'll chat until people are mad because they want to get to the pump. So that's a combination of starters. I'm cramming a whole day of training into a condensed version, and a lot of you have already been through this training. Magic question number 2 being profession, passion. If you understand the driver behind that being, most people identify with the work they do. If you ask them, so what do you do? I am a veterinarian. I am an accountant. I am all of those I ams. And so you start identifying with their identity, and you have a channel that you can follow and talk about. Find anything you have in common. If you're asking the checkout person at Home Depot, you already know what they do. So then you go, all right, so out of curiosity, when you're not checking out people's lumber, what do you do for fun? What's your passion? What are you passionate about? And now when you get them talking about what they are passionate about, you start finding out more about them. And the unique part about this is, especially for people that are dating, this is why this worked out so well. People will talk just as passionately and happily about their dark side as they will about their good side. It's your job to pay attention and always be testing. And I'll say it again. People will talk about their dark side as passionately and happily as they will about their good side. And that's all humans using this protocol, which is why when you get to the opportunity to utilize the third magic question, you have to understand the power behind it and why you're using it. And the third magic question is positive early childhood memories. What that causes when you are questioning them about positive early childhood memories is they link back to that memory. All of that oxytocin comes right back because they're talking about it. When they're talking about it, they're reliving it. And as they're reliving it, who are they looking at? They're looking at you. And you get linked to all that good energy. The problem is, if they are a 2 out of a deck of cards, and you're like, oh my God, there are 2, I gotta go, you may end up with a stalker. Depending on why and how and where you use that question. The reason I said it, why and how you use that question, is knowing your outcome. You can jump straight to magic question number 3 when you understand the psychology behind it. One story that I utilize a lot is when we were teaching classes downtown San Diego, we were on the 5th floor of a hotel close to the airport. A lot of airport crews stayed there. And so one day we broke for lunch, about 5, 6 students are walking with me. We get to the elevator. Elevator opens up and there's a pilot. You can tell he's got the outfit and everything. But even Ray Charles could tell this dude was having a shit day. I mean, the energy, the dark cloud hanging over him, they would have taken a chainsaw to slice that thing open. And so I looked at him and I went, excuse me, out of curiosity, how long you been flying? Excuse me, out of curiosity, softeners. How long have you been flying? Access to profession, passion. And he looks up and he's like, I don't know, 18, 20 years, something like that. I went, wow, 18, 20 years, Echo Talk. I said, just so you know, a lot of my friends and I travel a lot. Or no, he goes, 18, 20 years. And I went, wow, 18, 20 years. So were you the 5-year-old in the backyard with the toy plane, putting on millions of miles? And he looks up and he cracks up a little bit. He goes, yeah, probably. So I instantly accessed early positive childhood memories, which he validated. I didn't have to ask him about it. I went right into, so were you the 5-year-old in the backyard putting on a million miles with a toy plane and had a little fun with it? And he looks up and he goes, yeah, probably. And I said, just so you know, my friends and I, we travel a lot. And I really appreciate people like you who have been passionate about flying safely ever since you were a 5-year-old in the backyard. Bing! The doors to the elevator open up. I go, after you, sir. And his mood changed 180 degrees. big smile on his face. And as he's heading out, I said, "You have a great day." He goes, "You have a great day too." And he takes off, and I held the students back until he got around the corner. And I said, "What did I just do?" And they were like, "Holy shit, dude, you echo talked and three magic questioned him." I said, "Yes." "And how long did it take me?" "I don't know, 30, 45 seconds. I went, "Exactly. And what did it do for him?" "Well, you completely changed his day." I said, "That's where, once you understand the power behind why the questions are asked, you can do them in any order, anywhere, for any reason. And it allows you to practice anywhere with anybody, even if the only outcome that you're looking for is to make them feel better than when you met them. So it doesn't have to be anything to do with dating, zero to do with seduction. I didn't care what his name was. I didn't want his phone number. I didn't care. All I saw was, when we got in, I saw a guy having a shit day. And in 45 seconds, using Echo Talk and three magic questions, I was able to completely change that around for him. He probably didn't even realize that either A, he was having a shit day, or that he suddenly was having a better day. And if he did, he probably didn't understand at all how the shift came. He just saw some tall, skinny white boy in an elevator. I asked him a few questions, and his day was much better. All of that to emphasize, for those of you who have already taken the training and know Echo Talk and three magic questions, you don't have to make it anything other than what it is: the ability to elicit information and access energy for whatever reason you need to. Know your outcome. Why are you using it? I do it in the checkout line at the grocery store, for practice and to see if I can make somebody's day better. The funny thing is, I've I've literally had to cut off conversations and move on because the people were just enthralled and wanted to have this big conversation. I'm like, "Okay, been nice. Okay, gotta go. Thank you. Catch you later." So I know that I power slammed through an entire day in a whole whopping 18 minutes. Do any of you have any questions about that before we move on to something else?
Well, just something I noticed when you're breaking it down. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can.
So you may have other languaging for this phenomenon. I don't know other offhand, but I went to a training with both David and Chase Hughes together, and so
Yep.
like Chase's stuff it like melds in very well. It's like similar phenomenon or same phenomenon coming from different angles.
Yep.
So he talks a lot about inherent scripts, like whether they're things that you have built in your DNA or things that you got through socialization or a combination of both, right? And so that first part, we're talking about, going up to someone at the gas station, like, "Oh, like, where'd you get that car? Do you like it? Oh, cool. What is there anything you don't like about it?" In that moment, you're asking, "Is there anything you don't like about it?" You're breaking their script. Like whatever autopilot they might be on is shattered in that moment, and you end up producing a bunch of effects. Like first, that's almost certainly novel, right? And novelty it instantly creates focus. So now you have focus, you have their attention, and it's probably interesting. So now, like, you have this little window where if you have any kind of conscious influence skills or tools, like that opens a giant door for you.
Yes.
And then as you're going to explain that further, just going back to what you ended with in level 3, if then when you validate,
You're cutting out.
when you're validating them, you're feeling. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you were.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're bouncing in and out. So I wanted to make sure because I like this stuff. I'm familiar with some of the stuff, but what you're saying, but a lot of people on here may not be. So I want to make sure that they can catch all the stuff that you're sharing.
What's the last thing that was audible?
You were, as far as novelty, you broke up their script. You got.
Novelty. Okay, so novelty generates focus, just from like really from like as far as like genetic programming goes. Because if you go back a couple 100,000 years, novelty was, if you end up, you could be dead because you needed the thing. Anything that generates novelty will automatically generate focus, particularly in the mammalian brain, right? So in that moment of like you shatter their script, you create all this novelty, so they come out of autopilot. And also because it's like such an unfamiliar thing to be asked in that context, you have a ton of novelty, which opens a giant door, or window, if you will, for influence, because you have their attention, right?
Yes.
So in the attention, that's like a giant thing. And then in the same context of like when you're bonding to their emotions, where you get when you create that time distortion effect, looking for an early positive childhood memory, and you get wired back, because anytime you recall a memory, you rewrite the memory to some extent, right? So you get written in. That's that time distortion effect, and they end up bonding to that. And the same token, anytime you elicit any emotion from somebody, where it's in some way like you're uniquely involved in the process, right? They bond that. That's why you want to make sure you're eliciting positive emotions, unless it's serving your end goal to, or the process for them to have a negative emotion come up. So in that moment that you're asking, okay, is there anything you don't like about it? Whether they say no, and now you've validated their purchase, or they say yes, and then you validate their feeling.
Yes.
Either way, you're now linking to that validation feeling while you've just generated all this novelty and focus, and they are on a maybe mammalian level learning, oh, knowing this person might be important in some way for survival, and you'll get an additional little bit of like a window there, as well as a couple of points that if you play your cards right, you can start to go and double your earnings, metaphorically speaking. And so that plays into all of that.
Correct. Yep. And that's part of where he just validated the amount of power that understanding what this is yields will only make you more of who you are. For the seduction people who are out just to, do their thing. Yeah, this was very productive. But for the good Jedi like us, it's a great way to be able to make people, complete strangers, feel better about their day without them understanding why or how. They don't have to. I don't care. One of the questioning affirmations that I have up on my wall is, whose day will I make better today, even if I don't know about it? I just want to go out and practice making people feel better. Because the more I do that, the easier it gets. Which also goes back to, I think it was 2 weeks ago already, where I covered the power of questions. And one of the best skill sets I think that are out there on the planet is asking better questions. The better you get at asking questions, the quicker you can get through the world, the more stuff you can find out. One little thought that came to me over this week was, the kid asking, why is school not designed for the question askers? And if you think about it, public school is not designed for question askers as much as they would like to say they are. Raise your hand and wait your turn. I'm spewing information here. You'll get the answer later on. And we get conditioned to suppress our questions. Well, maybe they'll answer it. Maybe they'll answer it. Maybe they'll answer it. Oh, shit. Class is over. Okay. Well, now I've waited so long to ask the question, I forgot what it was, or I'm afraid of asking what's perceived as a stupid question or anything like that, which I want, now that we've got more people on here, I want you guys to know that I've created Triple T as an open forum for anybody. There are going to be people on here who have never had any exposure to what I'm talking about. They have no idea what NLP is. They probably think that it means the difference between electric and propane gas. NLP, no liquid propane. Okay, whatever. So there are going to be no stupid questions here, because even if it's at the very beginning, like, what is NLP? I will explain that. That's what this forum is for. For those of us that have been around been around Planet David for more than a year and deep dived into that stuff, I'm also here to answer as many questions as possible. I don't claim to know everything. That's why I'm the consummate student. I've always been looking for anything that I could learn. I think I also covered that 2 or 3 weeks ago, where if somebody was offering a free class on underwater basket weaving and I had the time, I would probably take it. And most people were like, what? That's stupid. Why would you do that? I don't know, because all of a sudden, 8 years later, we're trying to build a fence line for something, and all of a sudden it dawns on me, hey, if you weave it this way, it'll be 3 times stronger. And people would be like, where the hell did you learn that? I did a free class for underwater basket weaving. Who knew? Knowledge is all, there's so much knowledge in the universe right now. And with YouTube and formats like this, sharing of knowledge and absorption of knowledge and getting out there, it can be overbearing and mind-boggling, but it can also be like, holy balls, I can learn absolutely anything I want to, anytime I want to, almost for free, because I have access to the internet now. Every one of us should be able to speak 3 languages if we wanted to. But it comes down to the cost of time and attention. And I'll admit, sometimes I get caught up in Instagram, and those of you who are friends of mine on Instagram have caught on that, man, I've come across some stuff. There's good stuff and there's time-sucking stuff. And some of it is a thin line, a razor's edge, but look at all this stuff that I'm learning. Yeah, when you're going to apply it? Well, but I learned something. Okay, fine, be that way. Another thing that I've got so much stuff I want to cover, so I'm going to roll through. Sorry if I sound like a squirrel on 5-hour energy. Another thing that came to mind was when you're working with people and helping them, is understanding ownership of the cure. And what that meant to me when I said it was, in reference to what David says, people will not accept what you tell them. They will accept what they conclude. So even if you sit there, in teaching, you can blow facts out your butt all day long. But it's not until the person receiving it concludes that it's true or right or whatever that they get it. Now, when I'm working with clients, in learning the power of the question and learning the power of the word might, and I can't think of his name right now. One of my mentors from the industry put in there also the power of the phrase "so that." Jason Linett. Thank you, Jason Linett, for sharing that with the world. And so that is, let's work on this so that you can move past your blockage. We're going to do this so that we can move forward in this direction. Learning so that is just another one, just like the word might. It's almost an explanation of why you're going to want to do this for yourself. Another amazing deal that I learned from, ironically, from network marketing, Ross, can't think of Scott Ross came up with this one, is I don't know, all I know is, and then you give them a story that's pertinent to it. And so if somebody asks you a question about something, instead of trying to defend your position with straight facts, you utilize and you answer, I don't know. All I know is, and your side of the story. Well, I heard that this is supposed to be this. Well, okay, yeah, I don't know. All I know is I heard that it should be this. It's a way of diffusing a head-on aggressive attack on their side. I heard that hypnosis is nothing more than a placebo. Did you guys hear that amazing one? Somebody had the kahunas to show up at a hypnosis convention style, and they had a panel of people sitting up there, and somebody stood up and actually said that, I heard that hypnosis is nothing more than a placebo. And thank God one of the people on the panel up there was quick enough and smart enough to go, wait a minute, placebo. You mean that thing that every medication on the planet is compared against and is successful 60 to 70% of the time with zero side effects? Wow, what a great endorsement. Thank you for that. And the person who said it was like, and of course everybody's clapping, and yeah, shut them up, set them down. But another way they could have done that would simply be, I don't know. All I know is placebos are what every medication on the planet is compared against, blah, 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 and went on with the story and would have had the same effect. Probably wouldn't have felt quite like the same sledgehammer that poor person got hit with. In the end, you still get the outcome that you're going for. So we got that. Back to ownership of the cure. as such, when you're working with people, again, when they have ownership of their cure, because it's, they came up with it, it is their cure. It's not something that you devised, handed to them, and told them, well, this is going to work. It's almost like if we were making our own medication, if I allow you to understand what the components of a medication are to fix your ailment, and you make it yourself, chances are it's going to be the right one. It's also why I call a lot of the protocols that Dr. David has come up with non-disclosure therapy. We don't have to know the story behind what happened when you were 8. In fact, most of the time, the people that we work with don't know the story behind. They don't know why things are happening to them. They don't know why they feel the way they do. They just know that they do. And in being able to use holographic memory resolution, regression therapy, all of these things, especially with holographic memory resolution and color game, the subconscious knows exactly all the information in the color or the picture that they access. If you say, well, this makes me feel like such and such, and I go, okay, touch where you feel it, and you touch here, and I ask you, what color, if I were to ask you, well, what caused that inside of there? Explain it to me. A lot of people would not have the vocabulary, the understanding, or the backstory to be able to tell you why there's a feeling here. But if I say, and what color is the energy inside of it? And they go, blue. Well, what's blue? What does, you don't need to know? They don't need to know, but the subconscious knows every detail of the information inside of that blue disc. Could just as well be a DVD. And you don't have to ask them, well, what movie is on that DVD? I don't know. Well, what happens 30 minutes into the movie? I don't know. All you have to ask them, what color is the DVD? It's blue. Okay. Well, what makes a blue DVD better? Yellow. And for some reason, yellow will convert that DVD into a story, into energy, into something that's useful for you. And the subconscious knows everything that's inside of that, both of those write-ups. And the subconscious comes in, puts that yellow through that blue, the blue dissipates, yellow is inside, and everything is better. And I don't have to understand any of it other than the fact that there was blue, we put in yellow, they're better, life is good. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, trust me, the first time I heard this, I was like, and then I watched it work over and over and over and over, and I was like, holy, it works. And the funny part is, it works really good with kids for both physical and emotional pain. And I think the reason it works much better for children is because they don't know it's not supposed to work yet. And I have literally used this in public, out at oh, you had a question, Moss?
I do actually. how young have you done this stuff with? So I have, it's a little bit more in-depth stuff, but I have a good friend who's got a 2-year-old who basically saw like a lot of trauma when they were real little, but is like really, really cognizant already. And so I'm wondering, like, have you had any practice or experience working with like real wee ones starting to like clear stuff out so that it never has a chance to really like grow into a bigger thing?
A lot of it comes down to, can they follow instructions? And what I was about to say was, I've worked with out in public, be at a grocery store and a kid's crying, and we know how enjoyable that is to have a 2-year-old crying their head off in public. And I feel sorry for the parents. You know, a lot of people are like, God, I wish they'd shut that kid up. You know, I hate to break it to you, but I'm pretty sure if they could snap their fingers and have the kid happy, probably would have done it. I know I would have as a parent. But I'll come up and I go, kid seems to be having a bad day. Could I show you guys something that I'll teach you how to do it? Do they understand colors? And the parents are looking at me like, who are you? And okay. And I'll ask the kid, I say, can we play a game? I'm just curious. I know you're not feeling good. Can you point to where you're feeling what you're feeling? And the little kid's like, what? And looks at the parents like, is this okay? And the parents are like, yeah, where are you feeling it? And the kid be like, I'm like, if you were to close your eyes and look at the energy inside of there, what color might that be? Blue? Like, oh, it's blue energy. Yeah, sometimes blue energy can be kind of icky. What color of energy do you think would make blue better? They're like, pink? I'm like, yeah, pink is a really good energy. What if I want you to try and breathe pink energy right through the center of that blue energy until all that blue energy is all gone, okay? Go ahead, breathe pink energy through that blue energy. And the kid's like, okay. And the parents are like, what the? I'm like, here's my card. I'll teach you if you would like. I walk away, the kid's like, pink. I like pink.
Sorry, I just wanted to add on Moss with Brent
Yes.
Bombs of Work. It's actually pretty phenomenal. They actually, one of the facilitators had the mother hold on to the child and they did therapy this way and breathed color through her and healed trauma of rheumatoid arthritis. I think she was like 2 years old. She was so tiny and she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. And they did these techniques with her. They did this approach with her with the mother holding her so that he had no vocabulary whatsoever. It was just transfer of energy. And this little girl got on camera and so like the person that they're with, I don't know if it's somehow they're related, gets on camera and goes, thank you so much for saving my life. And she's 3-4 years old now. She's perfectly fine, walking, talking, moving, completely functioning. So it's really phenomenal, the work that Brent Baum has done and the understanding that because of him, we all now have that TJ uses and Dr. David Snyder uses, and it's just absolutely outstanding. So you can do with anybody that doesn't even have the vocabulary for it.
That makes a lot of sense. I forget, there's like a documentary on Netflix, I forget what it's called now, that did like a lot of this sort of stuff. There was a Joe Dispenza thing, but either way, it was someone basically like their baby had all this stuff going on and they basically were doing the work, holding the baby like all the time, and they like a teeny tiny, like I think under a year or like a year old.
Yeah,
So
it's phenomenal.
I'm curious then, are any of you familiar at all, like if you were doing something that would be like on the level of a regression, if they were there for the same trauma, you like, might that, any awareness of like examples of like being able to have that effect through that kind of a process? like holding
I-
the child and going through the,
I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be possible to, at least worst case scenario, you try it. You try it different
Yeah.
ways, and you keep applying it, and you keep trying different twists and turns and stuff, because it's energy. And
Yeah,
even
that's
though
what
they
I'm
might
kinda
not be able to express it, even energy in a different language. I think Greg Braden or somebody somewhere, they were talking in a different language, and they were communicating one in one language, one in another, and the energy transfer just communicated itself, and it resolved. So for
makes
sure.
sense. Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in real fast too. If you get in rapport with them, that's the key. So holding them is great. That can help you get into rapport. And even if they don't have language, I had to do this on my nephew once because I couldn't do it out loud, but I just got rapport with him. He'd fallen down and he was bleeding profusely everywhere. But as soon as I was able to get rapport with him, I could feel where he needed to do it. I just did the work as if it was on myself once I was in rapport with him, and it had a lot of good results. So.
And I think part of the reason why it's very effective with mothers. Mothers have that connection with the kiddos. It doesn't matter anywhere on the planet. That's where you hear all the stories of the kids on the other side of the planet has an accident and mom wakes up at 3 a.m. and knows. So you have that link, you've got the DNA, all the above. But when people get really good at this, the people that are really good at it can work with almost anybody, because we all have that energy around us. We're all transmitters and antennas at the same time. And so when you get somebody that's really in tune with that, unfortunately in December we lost an amazing lady that had that ability, Noda. God bless her and rest her soul, but her ability to tune into what a person's body was going through blew my mind. But that could also be what kept her sick, because she would pick up on people's stuff so much. And just like that segue, I had a segue to one of the things that I wanted to talk about, which is the difference between having empathy versus being an empath. And how do we separate the two, and especially protect the empaths in our industry? And my theory on this, having empathy, I think anybody can learn empathy. Empathy, I think at its rawest form, is the ability to step outside of your belief system and see somebody's point of view from the outside. Feeling sorry for people that have had things happen to them, regardless of how you feel about them. The boss that, you show up late for work on, for the 5th time, and they call you into their office and they're like, look, your numbers are low. You better get this shit figured out or you're out of here. Versus calling you into the office and going, hey, we noticed you've been late a couple of times and your numbers are low. Are you okay? Is there something going on in your life that, maybe we can help you with? That's empathy. But I've also, since being part of Planet David, I know I've met a lot more before Planet David, but since I've met a lot of empaths. And my perception of a true empath is almost like their antenna is too good. They pick up on people's energies whether they want to or not. And I've seen a number of empaths that I've met now where they have a hard time being in a room with a bunch of strong personalities, because it's almost like being surrounded by 5 or 6 super strong antennas with a very sensitive radio. They all bleed over, and you're like, oh my God, this sucks. Ah! And unfortunately, I see a lot of empaths ending up in our industry. And sometimes we have to figure out how we can help them and how we can protect them and teach them to be able to turn down the volume, turn down the sensitivity a little bit, or at least be able to turn their own volume knob up enough to cover over the stuff that's bleeding in. Anybody have any
Well,
ideas, inputs on that?
for being an empath, when you have that many people coming into your space, I would have panic attacks. It's too much.
Yeah.
You're perceiving too much. So you feel like your body's going out of whack and your mind is just this big haze and you can't cope with it. It's essentially turns into a panic attack
Okay.
and you have to remove yourself. Being able to feel and anticipate somebody else's feelings and their needs it's exhausting.
I can see that.
You're constantly, you have like a nervous condition. You feel like you're always have butterflies in your stomach. You're constantly feeling like almost like walking on eggshells. Unless you're able to get into a position where you can communicate with somebody that's easygoing. They're not, their emotions are under control. So you perceive the same thing. So you're going to bounce off the same type of energy they're going to give you. I have that problem with my son at this current time. And so I have to do that with telling, other kids, especially my niece, what you're going to give out to him, he's going to give back to you. So you got to get them to work together and play together. It's kind of hard.
One protocol that I've had some success with 2 empaths that I worked with, I call it basically the horseshoe in the mirror. And what I do is I have them basically disassociate 5 different times in a horseshoe configuration. So position number 1 is who they are right now. And then I have them step out and move back 1. And they're watching position number 1. And then I have them step out 1 more time, and now they're in position 3, watching number 2, watching number 1. And I continue this, position 4, position 5. Now they're arranged in a horseshoe, and position number 5 has the option and ability to look over and communicate with position number 1, going, okay, what's going on? All right, we're fine. I'm over here. Thank you for taking the brunt of it. Or they can pass through the grapevine communication back and forth. But that 5-step disassociation, this person now is very shielded and they have their back to the event, to the people, to the room, whatever. And you can make the horseshoe as big as you want. They could potentially make the horseshoe large enough to where they're in a different room or a different building or a different state. It's all in being able to separate far enough to get that safety pad between them and deciding, do they want to talk number 5 to number 1 or number 5 through 4, 3, 2, 1? Does that make sense? So that's just part of why we do this, so that we can mastermind and share ideas and ask questions and learn. And congratulations, you guys have made it through hour number 1, which is typically where I offer to stop being a talking head and open up the forum to questions and anybody looking for help on something. And if nobody speaks up, then I keep teaching, but I didn't want this to be a format where I'm strictly a talking head spewing out information and hoping something sticks. So anybody have anything that they would like to share or get some help with, or go ahead.
Quick question, or at least I hope it's a quick question. When somebody doesn't want to give a lot of information, so I was working with somebody and they were really only giving me like 1 or 2 word answers, and I was really digging for questions, but they weren't giving me a lot of information. Oddly enough, it was for communication. So I don't know. I did as best as I could at the time, and I don't know what else I could have done other than continue to ask questions. And even though they were open-ended, I was still only getting 1 or 2 word responses.
I'm going to open up the floor first. Anybody that wants to help her with that answer, and then I'll give my idea. Anybody? Crickets?
What were the circumstances why they were there? Was it of their own volition, or was someone else kind of wanting them to be there?
No, it was by their own volition, which I was super happy about, because initially I thought it was going to be because their parents, and they're 26, so I made sure that they actually communicated with me versus their parents communicating with me. So they did take the initiation, and the intention was to speak more fluently. And there was still, and you could tell, like he eyes open. I was definitely able to engage him. He was able to, do the sequences that I was asking him to process through. And you could see the color change, you could see the breathing change, you could see the smiles, you can see the eyes and stuff. But even when I was like, okay, well, where else do you feel it? There wasn't a lot of connection to tuning in and really being able to give me more information so that I could give them more information.
Okay. Yeah, because the first thing that had come to my mind was telling them that it takes time to open up and allowing that.
Yeah.
In saying that, then sometimes it'll kind of trigger the other way around and they'll open up. But if it's doing it that way, I don't know if that would help.
Okay.
Was this an actual session, or were you just trying to do 3 magic bullets on somebody, or?
No, this is an actual session. Yeah.
Okay, because in my sessions, one of the things I do in my pre-talk is I will say, and just so you know, to your subconscious mind, sometimes your subconscious mind just wants to be heard. And if that's what you want, I'm here to provide a safe, non-judgmental place. But also sometimes your subconscious mind just wants privacy. So it's allowed to share whatever feels right to it. And then if they only give me 2 things, I know that's what their subconscious mind wanted to do.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. And I did, go kind of the gamut of like, here's what you might experience, and educating them before we had even got there, rather than like, hey, what are you on? But thank you very much. I appreciate that.
One of the things that I'm curious about, how was your rapport with them?
It seemed pretty good, which was really a good thing, because he seemed very, very shy on the phone. But once we were able to Zoom, you could tell that he was engaged, he was focused, he did the things that I asked him to, he made sure that he had headphones and things like that. I think just a little hesitant of the overall situation. Like he, even though I was explaining it to him and what we were going to do, he was just kind of holding back.
Okay, so so if you were to echo him, like when he gives you that one or two word answer, echo him, and then say something to the effect of, "That's interesting. Can you elaborate on that? Can you tell me more about that?"
Okay. I like that. Can you elaborate more? And even when I would say, is there anything else? No. Okay.
Yeah. Anything else is not, is there anything else that's kind of a question that'll shut the conversation down, right?
Okay. Thank you, Maurice.
Here's another angle on that.
Mm-hmm.
What else might it be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, used Mike quite a bit.
Yeah, but added to, you could do, well, that's okay. That's an interesting label. What else might it be?
Okay.
And explaining to them, I often explain to my clients that the concept of nothing means anything until you give it a label. And too often, we stop at the first label that we give it.
Mm-hmm.
The other question I had was, do you give them the talk about what the subconscious is? And okay.
That it answers first, it answers quietly, you're always second guessing it.
Yeah. Because I will reference that when I start getting one or two word answers. I'm like, okay, now did your conscious just shut your subconscious down? Like try to be in charge, like, hey, that's wrong. And then I'll go into what else might it be?
Thank you, guys.
The other thing that came to mind was drilling down to their values and criteria in the beginning as to why they want the change, which allows you to kind of backtrack and go, now, when we first talked, you stated that you wanted to achieve this goal. With that in mind, what else might you want? What else might, what might be another answer? And it's just another way of nudging them on their values and criteria, which is a very strong driver. Same reason why anybody that comes to me for a smoke cessation or something like that, first thing I ask them, why do you want to quit? Because if it's not strong enough, or if it's because somebody else told me I should, I'm like, I won't work with you. Keep smoking. Which does one of two things. Either they feel validated and they're like, really? All right, cool. I didn't want to quit anyway. I'm like, yeah, I know. Or they're like, aren't you supposed to be telling me to? And it's almost the reverse psychology effect. I don't care as long as they end up doing what I don't care as long as they get the outcome they want. But I've also, I'm just gonna label it accidentally, but not really, have probably cured 3 or 4 smokers in the free consult. Luckily, two of them sent referrals my way. Like, oh my God, he cured me just like that. You gotta call him. I'm like, well, at least I got something out of it, but I did get something out of it. Being a former smoker for many, many years, and the misbeliefs that I had about nicotine being an addictive chemical, I could have quit way before I finally quit the last time. So there's all that. Anything else anybody has, as you can see now how the second half works?
From the last session that we had at the end, I was wondering if we could talk about how we were going to talk about the podcast and how stepping outside of ourselves.
Could you elaborate just a little bit more so I know what direction to take it?
Remember, we were talking about listening to the radio and changing it to something else
Oh,
to be
yes.
able to step outside of ourselves.
And did you find any podcasts that interested you in the last 7 days? And what was your takeaway?
My takeaway was that I could see, I listened to, it's called Crime Junkies.
Uh-huh.
And so I listened to true crime events that have happened and that are still happening.
Okay.
And I can understand more of how other families are living their lives day to day with either the joy of being able to recover from that tragedy or being able to cope with their family members not being there and still keeping hope and keeping faith and being able to progress forward with the mental states that they've had to go through each different stage.
Cool. Anybody else got any podcast input from the last 7 days? I've got one. Thank you, Sky. I was watching or listening to Mike Rowe has a great podcast. And he was interviewing Jay Leno. And a couple of nuggets that I pulled out of that were huge. It was an hour-long podcast. Glad I had the time to listen to it. But one of the things that they were talking about how Mike remembered Jay popping off just a quick little reply to somebody, but it was so funny in just the way he did it that everybody was rolling. And Jay said something that I thought was rather prophetic. He said, "Comedy is the economy of words. You want to say the least amount of words so you don't waste people's time." And I thought about, especially in what we do, hypnotherapy, therapy is also dependent on the economy of words. And so is the skill set of asking questions. I think I broke it down mainly to communication proper. I think the best communication is the economy of words. Getting your ideas across, being able to ask questions, being able to help people using the least amount of words possible so you don't waste their time. Another another quote from Jay in that podcast was, he said, I never shoot for happiness. I go for contentedness. Contented can last a lifetime. Happiness is kind of like alcohol. Yeah, it's good to have a good drink every now and then. But if you have to drink every day, all day, you're an alcoholic. And that also goes along with a quote that I've said for a number of years. I've got it right up on the wall over there. It says, instead of perfection, pursue excellence. Perfection is unattainable. Doesn't matter. I don't give a rip. That was perfect. Well, you could have done it a little faster. That would have made it even more perfect, which means it's no longer perfect. But excellence can be built on every second of every minute of every hour, every day for the rest of your life. If you did something excellent, and then you figure out how to do it even better, even more excellent, and then you share it with somebody who gets to do it, that's even more excellent. It never has to be perfect because it never will be, ever. Ever, ever, ever. And I know that's a long ass time, but even, I don't care. Somebody can call, I don't care what somebody tries to say is perfect. Somebody out there will find one minute flaw in it. And if there's a one minute flaw, it's not perfect. I don't know. All I know is it's not perfect. Anybody else? Otherwise, I got a few other items in here.
I got something, TJ.
Perfect.
It's not really a podcast, but I
Yep.
read a couple of books there last week,
Yep.
and basically it's a series by Michael Newton, and it's on Journey of the Soul,
Okay.
and he does a lot of regression, but it's soul regression, not past life regression. And it's really left me in the inquiry and questioning what I thought I knew about say past lives. He goes very deep into how souls are, like, you pick the bodies that they're going to come into and everything else. So I don't know if anybody has anything that can share around that has experienced a lot more of that. Like I say, it's kind of left me in what I thought I knew. If you've done 8,000 regressions and you're getting the same or similar answers from everybody, there's something there about that, right?
My surprise threshold after doing this for so long has been so decimated. I'll never forget the first regression that I did for a lady client who came for something else, and all of a sudden she had forgotten it, or she had not told me that she had shoulder and neck pain her entire life. I mean, she had gone through every form of therapy and CAT scans and dog scans, and they scanned her cat or her grand, I don't know. And I didn't know this, but we're doing a session, we go into regression, and next thing I know, we are 9 lifetimes back. She had just witnessed her parents getting murdered. They're burning down the cabin, if you will, that they were living in. She's tied up in the back of a wagon, has a big gash on her shoulder, and as they're driving away, her neck is slamming against the edge of the wagon. And this is my first multi-generational regression, and I'm like, all right, so what else? And so I send the person from today back to the person from 9 lifetimes ago, and just before the whole event happens, and so she can go, hey, shit's about to go down. I can't stop it, but I want you to know your spirit survives. It makes it all the way up to 2018 or whenever this happened. And would you like to take a look through my eyes to see what your spirit accomplishes? And of course, the person from 9 lifetimes goes like, okay, and takes a look, and she sees what's about to happen to her parents, and sees the next lifetime and the lifetimes ahead of her, and she got to see all of it. She's like, oh, and next lifetime I'm a boy, and next time and all the way up to 2018 or 2019, and gets to see what this lady is getting to do. And she's like, I feel so much better. My life wasn't a waste. And she sends all the lessons from 2018 back with this girl so that she can take them forward through the lifetimes and accomplish even more. And I bring my client out of trance, and she is just coated in sweat. And she's like, holy shit, that felt so real. I could smell the smoke. I could feel, I felt the cut in my arm and everything. And I I said, yes, but notice that your shoulder and your neck don't hurt anymore. And for the first time in her life, she did this with zero pain. And then wanted me to explain it. And I'm like, the energy wasn't needed anymore. The lessons were gone. And I've got a feeling that 9 lifetimes worth of people used to have a bad shoulder and neck and don't even know that they had it at one time, because now it never happened because it didn't have to travel forward to you. And she's like, wow. And as soon as she left, I'm like, woo, I need a drink.
That was a nice integration, because you regressed her and then you integrated all the 9 lifetimes to present. So.
And to date, you're not going to argue with your client, but to date, the farthest one was 101 lifetimes. And I was, at this point, I'm just like, 101 lifetimes. So, are you a boy or a girl? How old might you be? Inside, outside? What's going on? Give me an update. All right, let's fix this shit. We got 101 lifetimes to fix.
So actually, I have something to say about that. Can you hear me okay, TJ?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's funny, because up until today, I didn't really make a distinction between past lives and past soul experiences, because I kind of thought that they were all one and the same. But I did have one client, this was actually last year, where in the midst of the session, it was revealed that she was existing 27,000 years ago. And from a 3D perspective, we only know that mankind's been, on the face of the earth for maybe 15,000 years. I think the oldest skeleton that they found, they dated it back to carbon dating, like 15,000 years. So like 27,000 years, I'm like, okay, I'm not here to argue with the person. I'm just, pulling things out. So it was like 27,000 years before. And of course, she had come to me because it had something to do with a romantic relationship. And so it was revealed that her being and this other party had been together starting 27,000 years ago. And apparently 27,000 years ago, they were both like royalty. So long story short, when she came back, once she came into consciousness, the overall theme of the session was that they were actually like mirrored souls. So some of the they were both having like avoidant issues in this lifetime that had stemmed for way back then, and he had wronged her back like 27,000 years ago, and so he's been dragging for 27,000 years that he owes her, and it's this lifetime where he is now correcting all of that. And so I thought, okay, I've never heard of this before, but that's what actually came out. And then once she came to, it was like a big weight had been lifted. Whatever other triangulations that were going on with other ancillary relationships around him and around her, which were a concern and a burden to her before, now it's like this peace. She just had peace over her, where she was satisfied, she was content, and she was relieved. And just that she looked and felt lighter to me too. So I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could go back. But one of the things that I came away with from that particular session is that when we're doing this stuff, that it truly is all limitless. There's an infinite, there's no limitations, and it can go in infinite ways that we could not possibly fathom from the 3D plane perspective. So you just really have to be open to whatever it is that you're experiencing with your client in that moment to guide them through, because you just don't know.
And, dude, I get it. When us guys tell you ladies that we're going to fix something, we will. You don't have to remind us every 6 months, but 27,000 years, I mean, really, 27. And finally, she's like, I'm sick of carrying this shit around. She came to you and she fixed it. He's got to feel like, damn, I only had like 27,000 years to fix it, and you had to go out and do it. Great.
Oh, that's funny.
In the third book, Michael's Thought Out, is one I'm reading right now, that he goes very deep into it. It's more from a clinical standpoint, and he gets deep on what questions to ask, why you ask this one, why you don't ask this one, because of the pacing you're leading and where it'll take you, right? And basically, he gets very deep into talking with their guides and how they pick the soul, like why they picked that particular soul and what lessons they needed to learn. And and it's fascinating because his son's a Catholic priest, and he didn't believe in past lives at all before he started this. It's just kind of the rabbit hole he ended up going down over his 45, 50 years of work, right? So,
yeah, it's fascinating.
Trust me, the stuff that I've experienced since stumbling into Planet David, I've told many people an alien could pop up right back here, and I'd be like, excuse me, yeah? And they would say, you need to come with us. And I would be like, hey, you guys see this? No? I gotta go. I'll
if you ever hear, I don't know if you've ever experienced somebody talk about aliens in your sessions. Brent Baum has a number of stories about people who have had experiences. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he's a riot to be around. I thoroughly enjoyed the short time that I got to spend with him. So if you guys ever get a chance to take a class with him, I fully recommend it.
Definitely.
Yeah, somebody got lucky enough to spend how many days?
Just a few.
Yeah, how many?
A few.
Like 5-day course or a 4-day course or something?
going for his certification. So I finished level 3. So now I'm in my final 90-hour count or 90 memory count.
Yeah.
Nice. Yay.
Worth it. If you guys
Bravo.
ever want to hear from him, he's fascinating
Yep.
for sure.
Little insight on him. He's also a rock and gem collector.
Ooh.
And Linda, his name is Brent Baum, Baum. He's in, I want to say Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Arizona.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense that he lives in Phoenix
Yes.
or Arizona, because that's so rich with so many rocks and minerals, and
Yes.
there's got to be some sort of tie with people who have, like, my father was into rock and gem collecting. He doesn't really collect anymore, even though he still has his collection.
Yep.
And then as a child of my 3 siblings, I was the only one who really gravitated towards, from the time I was about 8 years old, and he would take me all the time to, the rock and gem stores. And then my youngest son, of my 3 kids, my youngest son, same thing, a fascination, still collects rocks and gems. There's got to be something, I bet you if you regress all of us to our past, there's got to be something that we have in common. That is why we have it's like this magnetic pull that you can't really explain it, but you just can't help yourself. It's like, it's on your radar and it's just part of your existence. And I think you like just buy them, based on feeling and sense and whatnot, like your whole life, because it does something for you.
I've been that way since I was a little kid. And of course, heaven forbid, where I grew up in farmland, Minnesota, you learn to go out and help the farmers pick rock as soon as you can lift a rock about this big and put it on a hay rack, driving back and forth throughout the field to get the year's new crop of rocks. And of course, by the end of the day, every pocket on my jeans was about to burst, because I'd be like, that's a cool rock. Oh, we can't throw that one. That one's this one's too big to fit in my pocket. Can I just set it here in the corner and
And geodes and
yeah. And then I actually ended up with a meteorite one night.
Wow.
Riding in the back seat of the car, heading home, and looked up and falling star, and I went, I know about where that landed. And so the next day, took my bicycle and rode out there and looked around and could see where it had hit the limbs of the tree, and it was about
wow.
that big.
Do you still have it?
Somewhere.
That is worth a lot of money.
I'm hoping it's still in my trailer of stuff in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend that if any of you want to come out to Wyoming and be tranquil with nature and you want to get stones, we have tons of different types of minerals, stones, anything your heart desires. And if you want to touch a bison, go for it.
Whoop, whoop.
PJ, I'm heading up there tomorrow so I can go find your meteorite.
All right. Yes. It's at a friend's house. I'm pretty sure it should be in the semi-trailer that I bought 15 years ago. But yeah, that was another one of those, like, that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. The fact that you saw the meteorite actually land and were able to go to that spot and recover it, that's pretty remarkable. So that meteorite was meant for you, obviously.
Well, of course, then I got all the stories of, like, well, what if it has alien dust in it, and you inhale it and all of a sudden you become this, I'm like, all right.
I'm surprised you don't keep that meteorite in your dwelling, just to have the energy of that meteorite that came from outer space to be in your space all the time.
Well, when I moved
Because
out
big
to
and heavy.
California, I wasn't sure if I was going to be there for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and I brought out the absolute minimum that I was going to need, and a meteorite didn't quite make the list. Because
Wow.
I thought I'd be coming back, so I didn't want to bring out a bunch of stuff that I'd have to haul right back. And then all of a sudden, 14 years later, I'm like, that went fast.
It always does go fast.
Oh, and now I'm in Texas going, I've burdened my friends and family with my shice long enough, so now I have to really decide. Thanks, Ray. I have to decide, do I keep it or do I, it's about time to shice or get off the pot, as they say. So, yeah, that's in there somewhere.
Very cool.
And Tina and I ended up, the labradorite is
Love labradorite.
our stone. So
That's a gorgeous stone.
yeah, we had no flipping idea what it was, and we were on vacation in China and broke off from the group and ended up in a rock store in China with owners who spoke zero English, and we spoke zero Chinese other than me knowing how xie.
What does that mean?
Thank you.
Oh.
And in the back, they had an extremely active labradorite, about this big, sitting on the floor. And I was like, oh, so pretty. Ah, we'll never be able to take that back to the States. Oh my God, that would cost $500 to
Shit.
And then I found out what a labradorite of that quality and size is worth. And I was like, yeah, that would have been a small down payment on a house.
How much was it?
Well, to put it in perspective, the labradorite that we ended up getting is about this big. It's about that thick, polished, and I got it for $60 US. And when I brought it back here and people who are big into gemstones have seen it, they're like, that is a primo cut. That thing's worth about $200, $300.
A good deal.
Yeah, about that big.
Wow.
So if it's this big, that was worth about 10, 12,000.
Wow. I've always dreamed of having a labradorite kitchen countertop.
I've seen those.
Good call.
I've seen it once too, and the light reflection from the recessed lighting, the
Will
blue.
blow your
Oh
mind.
my, it is gorgeous. So my
Yes.
next kitchen, I want to do that instead of granite.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, if I could swing the ching, that would be my countertop of choice, because that has got to be
Stunning.
Yeah, I only saw one, and like you say, it was just like, oh,
Very rich.
pretty.
My
Yeah,
mom's
it's very
got one.
What?
My mom has one.
Wow.
A labradorite countertop?
Uh-huh. Yep, on the top of the island in the middle of the kitchen.
Wow. It must look gorgeous.
I'm gonna try and get that, my mom's
yeah.
92 now. When mom passes, that house will be sold, but I'm gonna try and get in there and get that countertop and replace it. I can replace it with something nice,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I'd
no,
like to
Put
have,
another granite.
Yeah.
I want that countertop.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make it into a beautiful table. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a nice big island.
Gorgeous. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be beautiful. I got to run in here before they close the post office, but see you guys next week. Or actually, I won't be in next week because I'm going to be in Cancun for Dr. Joe Dispenza week-long event.
Oh,
So
you poor thing. Are you
Baby.
sure? Are you sure?
at least on the 27th on Thursday. So I'll be back on the 8th. I fly back the 8th. So after the 8th,
Have
I'll
a great
join you all.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
will do.
enjoy.
Cool, cool, cool.
All right. Ciao for now, my friends and gems.
Ciao for now. Okay, so we've got 19 minis left on the ticker talk. Anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I've got one quick one that I can throw in here. Yes, no? Bueller? All right, the one other thing that I wanted to throw out here is is introvert and extrovert, and how the world, I think, is missing out, leaving it at the 2 classifications when I think that there's 4. And that being, pretty much everybody knows the phrase introvert and extrovert. Do you guys know what that means beyond they keep to themselves or they like to be out in public?
Yeah. Introverts get energy when they're alone. Extroverts get energy when they're with other people, and spend energy in the opposite.
Exactly. Simon Sinek said it really good. Introverts wake up with 5 coins, and every time they have to be around people, it costs them a coin. Extroverts wake up with no coins, and they need to go out and be around people to collect coins. But the other 2 classifications that I think strongly need to be in there is the introverted extrovert and the extroverted introvert. I being an introverted extrovert. The introverted extrovert likes to be alone for the most part, but will really have fun and shine in a group. Kind of like one profession that is perfect for the introverted extrovert is a lineman. If you tried to make them work in a cubicle, would lose their damn mind and go postal in a very short time. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to stop off to happy hour to be around their little clan for an hour or 2, have a drink, catch up on shit, have some fun, and then they can go home alone. The extroverted introvert would be the person who has to work in that cubicle, factory, bartender, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're done. They just want to go home. They don't do happy hour. They don't do the big events. They've already had their fill. Whereas the introvert would be the person, the lineman who gets done working out in the field, or the wildlife ranger who has their cabin out in the woods, and the day that they have to go into town to pick up some supplies, there's about enough interaction with other human beings for a month or 2 until they need to go back. And then the full extrovert being the person that it doesn't matter that they worked in the factory with 73 other people. They still have to go to happy hour. And if they're not married, they have roommates, because being alone is too long and sucks. So that's where I think people have to understand the 4 different classifications. It was funny when I was bartending, or when I had my DJ business, people would always see me in the limelight and be out, and you hand me a microphone, or like this, you put me in front of you guys and you can't shut me up. But if I were to go to a bar on my own and I wasn't working, I'm sitting in the corner having my drink by myself, watching people. And most of the time, people wouldn't even know I was there, even people that knew me, because I did that little cloak of invisibility, and I was just small, quiet, and watching. And I had no problems going home to my house and jamming out. And it blew people's minds, like, oh my God, how long you been here? You been here all by yourself? You're just hiding? What's going on? I'm like, I didn't come here to talk to you. Came here for a drink that I didn't feel like having at home. Sorry, I'll go home now. So with that, any input, any thoughts, ideas, ahas? Everybody already knew this?
I did not know, but it makes perfect sense.
Okay, 13 minutes left. Here's another one.
ATJ.
Yes.
I never realized that I was an extroverted introvert.
Yeah, interesting how that works, isn't it?
I just thought I flipped back and forth, right? I used to be solid introvert. Then I flipped, then I just, got this extroverted occasional streak. And so I figured I was just, cross-dressing in the.
Look at this mask. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, but now it makes sense.
Cool. One more thing that I wanted to bring up is, who's the expert? And a lot of times it comes down to these, people with low self-esteem and low self-worth, and they're like, well, I could never, who am I to say, or, I don't deserve this because I just, those people have been doing it for a long time, and I've only been going to classes for 3 years, and but I haven't had enough time in the field. And I always ask them, how do you know that those people are the actual expert? They're just doing. One of my favorite references for people that don't feel like they've got enough to give is the semi-trailer that was slammed into a tunnel because the driver didn't understand. He had a big ass truck, tiny tunnel, wedged that baby in good. And they called in all the experts who were trying to figure out how they were going to get that truck and trailer out of that tunnel without destroying both of them. But if they had to destroy one, the truck was going to be the one. And while they're sitting there contemplating all the different ways they were going to do it, a 9-year-old boy walked up, looked at the situation, and spoke loud enough. Well, why don't you just let all the air out of the tires? Won't it come out then? And all the experts went, did he just shit, that could work. Lo and behold, it did. So who was the expert? And thank God the kid didn't keep his mouth shut, because the truck and trailer would have probably been absolutely destroyed. Not to mention the amount of time it would have taken to destroy the truck and trailer and haul it away. And do you think he left there questioning himself as to, well, I probably shouldn't have said anything. I'm not the expert. I mean, there were a bunch of experts there, and who am I to say anything? And so sometimes you have to understand, you don't have to know everything about everything. Sometimes you just have to be willing to speak up. And there's a lot of times when I'm working with clients where, man, I tell you what, there is no script. If you think there's a script working with clients in this industry, as soon as you think that there's a script, they rewrite it. And if you think they're on this story, they will change the story just like that. So you got to be able to just roll and flow and sometimes pretend that you know what you're talking about. Sometimes, like when that client went back 9 lifetimes, I didn't have time to go, oh shit, this isn't in the playbook. Now what the hell do I do? I had to roll with it. And when we got all done, I couldn't risk her understanding that it was new to me, because that could have unraveled everything that we did. I had to play the expert. Yeah, that's exactly how that works. Notice your shoulder and your neck don't hurt anymore. That was a Hail Mary lob. And it worked. And I couldn't let her know how surprised and shocked I was until we were done. Who was the expert? I'm supposed to be. I may not feel it all the time, but they hired me to be. So I'm going to be, to the very best of my abilities. And who knows? Maybe I'll get lucky and the 9-year-old in me will say, why don't you just let the air out of the tires? All right, I'll play. Let's go. Any thoughts, input, ahas on that? Other than the fact that I just let you guys know that I'm not always in charge of the playbook. I'm like, holy shit, let's ride this bull, see if I can make it 8. Yeehaw!
Still pretty awesome, even if you're faking it. So.
Well, there is, again, like David has said many times, did you get the results you were looking for? Then you did it right. But I forgot step number 3. Did you get the results you were looking for? Yes, then you did it right. But I didn't do steps 1 and 4. Did you get the results you were looking for? Yes, then you did it right. And that will save your bacon a lot when dealing with humans in their natural environment. And that's also why I practice Echo Talk, 3 Magic Questions, Values and Criteria with anybody I talk to for any reason, anytime. Because the more you do it, the easier it happens. It's just another form of communication. And if you're learning a new language, what's the best way to become really good at it? Speak it as much as possible. That way, when you get somebody who speaks it fluently, or doesn't, in our case, there is no real language. you have to be able to speak them all. Let her buck. Yeehaw! And embrace the change that you've made. You know, I've talked to a few people that, you know, but I can't move forward because back in the day, I got turned down for 72 different places that I wanted to work. Yeah, that was back in the day. A lot has changed since then. Hell, I'm on profession 28. Ask me how I feel about change of life, change of pace. Kick open the door, announce you're there, and see what happens. Aha, I'm here. Well, how long you been doing this? Well, it's been a while. If you could just maybe give me an overview of what I need to do. Oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that part. Yeah, it's been a while. Like probably about 3 lifetimes ago. Some of that shit just kind of slipped, but as long as I can do better than what you had before you had me here, just saying. And we are down to the 3-minute countdown. Any other inputs, ahas?
TJ, I
Yes,
don't know if
sir.
you remember me. Real World Hypnosis, San Diego, March 2019.
Whoop, whoop.
You remember?
Nah.
Casey? The tall guy with the suit.
Yeah, right on.
Actually, I wanted to apologize to everybody. It's kind of out of context here, but I really wanted to see if I can get in contact with you afterwards to see about a consultation.
Yeah.
All right. Should I
Yeah,
connect
you
with
don't
on
have to
Facebook?
apologize. That's
I know I know, but
yeah.
all right, cool. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
And my intention is to do this every Tuesday night, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah. Glad is the one who actually told me about it, so thankfully.
Ah, cool.
Right on.
What? Let me ask you, put you on the spot. What's your favorite takeaway from everything that you heard tonight?
Tonight, probably that story about the little boy right now.
Yeah. Who's the expert?
Right.
Could be anybody. Could be you. Here's another one to add to that. I wish I should have looked it up. I should verify, but you guys can verify. Did you know that it was a almost positive a middle school student who saved NASA thousands of dollars, stupid amount of money, by simply asking, well, why do you paint the booster jets on the space shuttle? They just fall off anyway. And doesn't that paint cost a lot and doesn't it weigh a lot? and the NASA, it was, I think they were doing a walkthrough, a little NASA deal, and one of the experts happened to hear that and went, I don't know. And wasn't afraid to ask somebody else. And pretty soon, all the top people were like, I don't know. Why the hell do we waste all that paint to make it look pretty when it just gets trashed and costs and weighs a ton? They figured out the amount of weight in the paint was stupid add-on weight for when you're trying to build a spaceship to fly up. The cost to paint those tanks was horrendous. That's why I think it was only the first 1 or 2 shuttle missions had painted tanks. After that, all of them were primered. Who's the expert? I don't know, some kid from middle school somewhere. Some 9-year-old asked, why don't we just take the air out of the tires? So if somebody like that can make an impression that huge on something like that, why can't you ask the right question at the right time and get good at it? And that brings us all the way up to the 8 o'clock hour. You guys have been gracious enough to stick around with me for another 2 hours on a Tuesday night. I really appreciate it. Hope that you guys got something out of it. Any last comments before we all say good night?
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Well, you guys have a fantabulous evening, an even better week, and I will see you in 7.
Thank you, TJ.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Bye.
great week.
Oops, wrong button. Here, let me get this. Give me just a sec. All right, I can hear you if you had a question. All right, I'm back. Do you have a question, Casey?
Yeah. How
Okay.
can I get contact with you about the consultation? You want a phone number or time?
Actually, hit me up on, do you have Skype?
No, but I can get it.
On Skype, same username, TSWB helps,
Okay.
or you can hit me up on Facebook as well. But I do my work through Skype, on Skype.
Okay.
And then that
Okay.
way we're set up, and then we can do a consult and move forward.
All right. Well, I'm leaving work right now, so I'll get home, set it up, and then I'll probably write you a message tomorrow, see when it's a good time for you,
Cool.
and we'll get on tomorrow.
Sounds like a winner, man. Appreciate you
Right
dropping
on.
in.
No, thank you for doing this.
You bet. All right.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.